The first splash wasn't from my jet ski. Nope, it was from Karen hurling a mimosa glass into the lake like it had just called her sun hat tacky. Picture this. I'm cruising along on my brand new electric jet ski, silent, sleek, and eco-friendly, when she storms on her deck, hat the size of a satellite dish, pointing a shaky finger at me. "That thing is unapproved," she screeches like my jet ski's some rogue infiltrator in her perfect little HOA kingdom. Meanwhile, her husband's gas-guzzling monstrosity is dripping oil 50 feet away, but apparently that's fine. The irony was thicker than her glitter pen signature. I just moved into this lakeside neighborhood, a quiet spot controlled by a homeowners association that I figured would be more about potlucks than power trips. I cashed out of a tech startup, bought a house with a dock, and planned to live low-key. Ride my jet ski, sip coffee, avoid drama. Simple, right? Wrong. What I didn't account for was Karen, the HOA's unofficial dictator, and her vendetta against anything that didn't fit her laminated rulebook. That Friday morning started like a dream. Birds chirping, a breeze flirting with my coffee steam, the lake sparkling like it had just had a spa day. I fired up Whisper, my jet ski's name, because it purrs like a cat instead of roaring like a chainsaw. It's a prototype I co-designed with a Tesla buddy. No smoke, no noise, just smooth, clean fun. I've been riding it for a few days, waving to neighbors, even getting a thumbs up from Hal, this Hawaiian shirt-wearing guy who once fought a raccoon for his dock rights. Life was good, until Karen. She came barreling down her lawn, barefoot, one hand clutching a mimosa, the other waving a laminated sheet like a royal decree. "Excuse me, sir. That vehicle isn't on the HOA-approved list." I cut the engine, drifting in the water, and blinked at her. "What?" I said. "Jet skis. We only allow standard, lake-approved models. Yours isn't listed." I almost laughed. "Because it doesn't make noise or pollution?" Her eyes narrowed like she was scanning me for sarcasm. "Because it's disruptive. It sets a bad precedent." A bad precedent for what? Clean energy? Chaos? I couldn't tell. I'm a chill guy, mostly. I waved her off with a smile and said, "Got it. Thanks for the info." But something about her tone, like unapproved, was a personal insult to my jet ski's honor, made my eye twitch. I should have kept cruising, let her blood pressure sort itself out. Instead, I smiled wider. That moment changed everything. Because what Karen didn't know, what nobody knew, was that in less than a month, I'd own the water she was standing in. Karen didn't let it go. That evening, a $200 fine showed up on my doorstep, taped to it like a ransom note. Violation of Lakecraft Policy 17B. It read, signed by the HOA Compliance Committee, which, judging by the glitter pen and aggressive cursive, was just Karen after her third Chardonnay. I figured it was a one-off, a warning shot. So, I decided to play nice, show up to the next HOA meeting, explain Whisper specs, maybe win them over with a demo ride. Big mistake. I walked into what felt like a war crimes tribunal. Karen sat on a folding chair throne, flanked by two guys who looked like they'd flunked out of security guard school for being too paranoid. They handed me a 3-page complaint. Excessive wake turbulence, technological intimidation, even a claim my jet ski might hack the lake sensors. "The what?" I asked. "The lake sensors," Karen snapped like I was the idiot. "We monitor fish activity." "Sure you do." It wasn't about the jet ski. It was personal. A little digging later, I found out why. Karen's husband ran a rental business, churning out noisy, outdated gas-powered jet skis for tourists. Whisper wasn't just different, it was better. Quieter, cleaner, faster, cooler. To Karen, that made it a threat. She didn't want rules. She wanted a monopoly. The meeting ended with a formal warning. Ride again, and they'd pursue enforcement. One guy mouthed tow it like a Bond villain. Cute. That night, I sat on my dock, beer in hand, watching the sun bleed into the water. I could have fought the fine, argued the rules, but then Hal shuffled up, leaning on the rail. "You know the HOA doesn't actually own the lake, right?" I turned. "What?" "Just the land around it. The water's under something called water rights. Ever look into that?" I hadn't, but I was about to. What followed was a rabbit hole of legal docs, land surveys, and property records that'd make a conspiracy nut weep with joy. Hal was right. The lake was privately held, But the water rights? Those belonged to a retired cattle rancher in Utah who hadn't visited in years. A few emails, a phone call, and a disgustingly large payment later, I had a contract. I didn't just own a jet ski, I owned the lake. Karen had no clue what was coming. The morning after the transfer, I stood on my dock, sipping coffee, watching the ducks. My phone buzzed, an email from the county registrar confirming the deal. I glanced at Karen's house. She was outside, clipboard in hand, inspecting the clouds like they needed HOA approval. I fired up Whisper, eased into the water, and cruised past her dock, slowly, just so she'd catch my smug grin. She shouted something, probably another rule, but the wind drowned her out. I smiled and thought, Karen, sweetie, you should have kept your mimosa to yourself. You'd think owning the lake would have ended it. Nope. Karen was like a mosquito in yoga pants, relentless, loud, and convinced she was saving the world. The day after the mimosa incident, a violation notice was duct-taped to my mailbox, ink bleeding from the dew. My dock was now non-standard, never mind it passed inspection when I moved in or matched half the neighborhood. Karen's excuse? Wrong stain color. It created an unharmonious visual break. Translation: she was mad and making stuff up. I ignored it. So, she sent another letter, excessive gatherings. Apparently, having more than 4 people over, including my own family, needed HOA pre-approval. As she complained, my outdoor speaker was tonally disruptive. I was playing Fleetwood Mac. One morning, I woke up to find my flamingo float missing, a note pinned to it. Violates HOA decorum standards. I wanted to retaliate with a 30-foot inflatable dragon, but I held back. Barely. Every petty strike just made me more curious. This wasn't random. It was a pattern. So, I started asking around, chatting with neighbors over coffee or walks. That's when I hit gold. Oh yeah, one said, her husband rents out jet skis. Cash only, no receipts. You sign a waiver, and that's it. Red flags everywhere. A little online sleuthing and some social engineering later, I had the full picture. Karen's husband ran an under-the-table jet ski rental gig from their garage. No permit, no insurance, just a trailer of sputtering gas-powered relics for HOA buddies and weekenders. It wasn't a hobby, it was a racket. Whisper threatened their outdated monopoly. Suddenly, her lake safety tantrums made sense. It wasn't about the environment, it was about money. I could have gone public right then, but I waited. Then came the HOA Emergency Compliance Review. A gold-trimmed envelope arrived, inviting me to a special session about my persistent noncompliance. Naturally, I showed up in a Hawaiian shirt, sunglasses, and flip-flops. The clubhouse looked like a dentist's office remodeled by someone's grandma. Karen presided with a clipboard and a voice that could curdle milk, her board looking bored or terrified. Mr. Carter, she began, all syrupy venom. We've received multiple reports of your disregard for regulations. From whom? I asked. The compliance committee. You mean you? She ignored that. She listed every fake violation. Excessive wake, unauthorized lake craft, noise pollution, even social fragmentation. I almost laughed. What's that mean? You've created division, she said. Neighbors are taking sides. Poetic, considering she was the one sending 6-page violation notices over a flamingo float. Then Dave, an older board member who'd rather be fishing, raised his hand. Karen, I looked into the lake rights. Technically, Jake's jet ski isn't violating anything. He owns the water. Karen froze, then pivoted like a pro skater into a tantrum. Maybe we should revisit HOA jurisdiction, file a claim against the water rights. Dave sighed. That's not how this works. She glared at me, steel-melting fury in her eyes. I leaned back and said, funny you're fighting an electric jet ski harder than your husband's illegal business. The room went silent, like someone popped a beach ball. That's a private matter, she hissed. So, is owning a lake, I shot back. And yet here we are. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Karen pushed for a vote to suspend my lake access, but Dave shut it down, reminding everyone I own the water. Outside, he warned me, she's going to try something else. I grinned at the sparkling lake, my lake. Let her try. I've got surprises of my own. I didn't waste time. If I owned the lake, everyone needed to know it. First, I called a surveyor, not one of Karen's khaki-clad clipboard cronies, but a pro. He marked the water's edges with small, tasteful signs: private waters, electric only. Nothing the HOA could touch. The lake was mine, not the land or docks, just the water. But that meant every jet ski, swimmer, or soggy dog had to follow my rules once they crossed the line. Karen noticed instantly. She stomped down her deck, phone in hand, dialing 911 like I planted a missile. I watched from my dock, coffee and bagel in hand, as she pointed at the surveyor and ranted. 2 cops showed up, clearly over HOA nonsense. I handed them the deed, the transfer docs, and my lawyer's number. They nodded, chatted with Karen, lots of gesturing, red-faced finger-pointing, then drove off. One gave me a thumbs up. Karen looked like Christmas got canceled. 2 days later, my lawyer sent the HOA a cease and desist, a polite heads-up that any water-based enforcement against me was harassment, and I'd sue. That week, I launched Friends of the Lake, a free membership group for eco-conscious residents. Rules: no gas engines, no shady commercial gigs, no Karen-level drama. I built a website, set up a lake access calendar, and posted it on the community board. 30 people joined in 3 days. Karen's husband's rental gig hit a wall. No water, no jet skis. She tried an emergency HOA water meeting, urging folks to ignore my signs and reclaim the lake. 5 showed up, 2 left when I waved from Whisper. She accused me of dumping battery fluid, called my jet ski a deep state watercraft. I posted a rebuttal on the HOA portal, legal docs, environmental data, a conservationist letter backing my electric-only rule. Neighbors started asking me for eco-friendly watercraft tips. A dad even joined Friends of the Lake for a Whisper ride with his kids. "This is the most fun HOA drama ever," he laughed. Then Karen went full desperado. Late one night, I heard a gas engine revving, a deep, sputtering growl. Flashlight in hand, I caught her riding one of her husband's relics into my lake. No life jacket, steering like a drunk pirate. "You're trespassing," I yelled. "You can't trespass on public water," she shouted. "It's not public. Check the deed." She cranked the throttle, hit a sandbar I'd marked on the lake map, and, splash, fell off. Waist-deep water, but the embarrassment was deeper. I filmed it, not to gloat, okay, maybe a little, but to cover my ass. Next morning, I sent the footage to the county environmental office. Her illegal gas jet ski earned her a fat fine and a ban from HOA-adjacent water activities. A local blog ran it. HOA Queen tries to break her own rules, schooled by jet ski justice. Viral in the neighborhood chat. Karen deleted her profile for a week. Karen's empire crumbled fast. Her board started whispering during meetings, dodging her splash zone. Residents demanded financial transparency. Turns out lake maintenance funds had vanished, a few hundred here, 1,000 there. Karen called it harassment when folks requested records. Her newsletter stopped mentioning me, like I was Voldemort on a jet ski. I become the HOA's accidental resistance leader. Neighbors gathered on my dock, offering paddleboard passes for cleanup help or volunteering to run the Friends of the Lake page. A teen turned it into a digital hub with events and Karen memes. My favorite was her face on a sinking pirate ship. "Captain K isn't going down with dignity." Karen pushed back hard during a weekend lake event I hosted. Acoustic music, solar lanterns, food trucks, a floating movie screen for kids. Wholesome rebellion. She marched down at sunset, clipboard blazing, barking about permits. She told the taco truck guy he was breaking HOA code. He offered her a free taco and told her chill. She called 911, claiming an unauthorized commercial operation. The cops, same ones from before, showed up mid-taco. Officer Martin waved mid-bite. "Evening, Jake. Everything in order?" "Perfectly," I said, handing him a water bottle and a county permit. Karen sputtered, but Martin shook his head. "Private water, ma'am. Permitted. I'm off in 10. She stormed off, her tantrum echoing across the lake. Even the ducks looked annoyed. A few days later, a letter came from the HOA's attorney, Karen's cousin. Actually, threatening to revoke my lake rights based on historical precedent. My lawyer laughed it off as middle school detention scribbles. We fired back with a response dismantling their claims, plus an appendix of Karen's husband's rental violations. Tax fraud, no insurance, faulty equipment. We sent it to the county inspector, not the HOA. A week later, an audit hit. Rental business shut down, fines issued, back taxes demanded. Karen's lake equipment repair, budget transfers, jet ski parts, busted. The real turning point was the next HOA meeting. Packed house, arms crossed. Karen droned on, rules, a weird unity poem, until Mrs. Lacey, a retired teacher, stood. I move we vote on the immediate resignation of the vice president. Karen laughed. That's not how. Mr. Ahmed seconded. Hand shot up. I didn't even vote. Motion passed. Karen slinked out. No tantrum, just silence. Dave, the fishing guy, took over as interim president, apologizing to me and scrapping dumb aquatic rules, greenlighting electric watercraft. Karen's house went up for sale a week later. A young couple with a golden retriever moved in, asking to join friends of the lake and plant wildflowers. I nearly cried. We held our first community lake day. Music, a floating bar, lanterns with wishes drifting across the water. Whisper starred. Kids loved it, adults wanted one. Dave handed me a laminated honorary lake keeper certificate. You didn't just save the lake, Hal said, slapping my back. You saved our sanity. The lake changed, quietly, undeniably. Tension faded like morning fog. Kids paddled, old folks floated, Karen's moving truck rolled out. Wildlife returned. Herons, turtles, cleaner water. We started a kids' summer camp. Kayaking, fishing, paddle in peace on the shirts. I rode Whisper one evening, sky pink and orange, drifting in the middle of my lake. Karen's old house was just another home now. No rulers, just stewards, volunteers, friends, and me, the guy who bought a lake out of spite and built something better by accident. Then, weeks later, I was skimming debris, part of our volunteer cleanup, when an SUV pulled up. Karen stepped out, no khakis or clipboard, just jeans and a tired look, holding a box. We stared. I braced for a rant. Instead, she said, "These were in my garage. HOA records, lake stuff. Thought you might want them." I took it half expecting a prank. Just papers, notes, maps, receipts from before she lost it. She glanced at the lake. "You win." I wasn't trying to, I said. She laughed weakly. "Yes, you were. And you did. Fair, I guess. I let it get personal. You fined me for a flamingo float." It clashed with the hydrangeas. We laughed. First time I saw her as a person, not a tyrant. She left without another word. SUV, fading down the road she once patrolled. I filed the useful stuff. Maps helped our next cleanup. The rest? Junk. It felt like her handing over the last of her power, maybe asking for forgiveness. I wasn't ready to give it, but I kept the gesture. The lake thrived, the community grew, and I got my piece, plus a splash of petty revenge that turned into something bigger. All I wanted was to ride my jet ski. Turns out, that ride set us all free.